Good evening. Welcome once again. Welcome to another of these interviews in our little series building up to Steampunk Over Ether, which is this weekend. So it's only a couple of days away now. I'm getting very excited. We've got loads of amazing content. We've got some more content coming today, which is awesome. So all sorts of people have produced stuff for the festival. We just had some fabulous songs, exclusive set from Violet Hue, which was brilliant. And we've got all sorts of stuff. And I will be talking to Professor Elemental on Friday as well. So if you missed that announcement, I'm going to be talking to Professor Elemental tomorrow night. So that's another great one. So it's all building up. I'm working on a schedule at the moment. I've been desperately working on this schedule for a couple of days now because trying to fit everything in. There's so much stuff. But I am going to put a schedule up, hopefully a rough schedule up later tonight. So you can get some idea of what's going on, and then we'll put up a proper schedule, probably either Friday night or possibly first thing Saturday morning. We're going to run the festival from midday Saturday and Sunday till around 10ish, but we're going to be playing music after that as well, so it'll go into the night, and we'll figure out what we're doing. There is still just time if there are any performers out there who want to send in videos. There's still just time to send stuff in. We've got a pretty chock-a-block program though, so it's going to be difficult to crowbar it in. But if something comes in, I will try and do that. So we have a pair of guests tonight, a fabulous pair, as they're often referred to, and so I'm gonna get them to introduce themselves. Really, they recently did quite a fun medley video. I'm going to show you the first bit of that. So without further ado, here's a little brief introduction, as it were, to the Cogkneys.
Don't hoard the bog roll. There should be bog roll for all. Don't hoard the bog roll. I can't wipe me hands on the wall. Don't hoard the bog roll. None should be more than enough. Don't hoard the bog roll, 'cause newspaper's just a bit rough.
And don't use the Daily Mail. You wouldn't want to have a racist bumhole, would you?
No, you wouldn't.
Tilly, I'm a bit hungry. Do you have anything to eat?
Got a tin of beans.
No.
I've got half a tomato.
Ugh.
No.
Nothing else?
Oh, I tell you what. I've got a lovely pack of pasteuria. It was the last one on the shelf. I went to get me trolley, thinking it would be folly. I had to wrestle the packet off the greedy selfish witch. I've got a lovely pack of pasteuria. I had to fight for it tooth and nail. I shouted at the old rag, I stuffed it in me bag, and I rolled it down the aisle to pay for it quick. Oh, I rolled it down the aisle to pay for it quick.
Oi! I rolled down the aisle to pay for it quick. Oi! I rolled down the aisle. I rolled down the aisle. I rolled it down the aisle to pay for it quick.
Rolled it down. Oh, sorry. Yes. No. That was brilliant. Hello, Cogkneys.
Hello!
Hello. That was fabulous. I did enjoy that. That's a little bit different to your normal act because obviously you were messing around to a song that you performed and recorded. But I think it was great fun, and of course very topical at the moment. Very topical at the moment.
Yeah.
So
we try.
I suppose that was a little bit of a flavour. But how would you describe your act to anybody who's never seen it before?
Well, I think the tagline on our things is musical merriment and steampunk delights. So we tried to have a mix of traditional music hall from the Victorian and pre-war era, along with some modern imaginings and kind of rewriting the lyrics to modern songs that fit with a steampunk audience, along with some poetry from Ymir and some comedy skits.
I'm an award-winning poet.
Comedy stuff. So I suppose, so how did you start doing this then? Because it's a bit of a weird thing to do. I mean, steampunk does kind of, people do tend up doing strange, odd, weird, wonderful things. So how did you get into doing the Cogkneys and musical?
Well, it started, but we went to the first asylum. Is it 2009?
2009.
Ourselves and some friends, and we thought what would be really nice that they was obviously it's really quite new, wasn't it, would be to have something quite Victorian and quite traditional with regards to entertainment. And I looked around and nobody seemed to be doing anything traditional for a steampunk audience. There was plenty of music hall performers or sort of dark cabaret, but nothing that kind of lend itself to kind of true Victorian and twisting it with steampunk. So myself and my friend Gabby approached Major Tinker, as we tended to know him there, rather John Naylor, those who know John, most people do, about putting on an act. And it was going to be myself and Gabby, and we were going to be called the Cockney Queens. And my friend Gabby unfortunately got cold feet halfway through. I was thinking about what we were going to do and the songs we were going to sing.
In fairness, it was very difficult to arrange any kind of schedule to rehearse. So it was a struggle because she lives quite a long way away from us.
Yeah. So it ended up being just me. And I'm a bit of a show off, as friends who know me will tell you. But I kind of felt I needed someone else on stage for it. And he never really been on stage much before.
As it so happened, I had occasionally said, perhaps I could just come on and like mess about or something on stage, just do a little comedy, something or other.
And I told him that'd be rubbish.
And I said, okay.
But he did it anyway.
He did it anyway, yeah.
I was sat at work one day, and I thought I'd written quite a bit of poetry in the past, but most of it was really emo. I wrote a poem, and I thought, I should write a poem about a guy who builds a great big tower. So I wrote it and called it My Fabulous Erection. And then I presented My Fabulous Erection to Andrea, or Tilly as is her stage name, and she was impressed by My Fabulous Erection.
That's what he thinks.
And we agreed to put it in.
I think at this point I should mention that this interview is probably going to have a vast quantity of innuendos in it, because that's most of Arthur's act, and it's some of my act as well.
Yeah.
So I think the combination of the two of us. So I should warn anyone of nervous disposition or people who find innuendos offensive, and there are people out there. Get used to it. Don't watch this interview. Don't.
So we kind of went from there, didn't we? And I invited you into the act. Yeah.
Despite no ability to really sing or dance in any way whatsoever. Short straw.
None. He still can't do the box step 10 years on.
Now, I can do the box step as long as I'm not expected to sing or think about anything else at the same time.
Can I just say that you're a rubbish substitute for. I've seen Gabby. You're a rubbish substitute for Gabby.
He doesn't have the norks, does he?
I don't have the norks. It's a sad case. Nor do I have the voice, but I do have the poetry.
We started, didn't we? And we found that Carl really could not do a Cockney accent at all. I am from a Londoner. My mum's a Londoner, so I can do it. But we decided he had to be posh because he just couldn't do it. He sounded worse than Dick Van Dyke. So
that is a lie.
That is not a lie.
That is a filthy lie. I did not sound worse than Dick Van Dyke. It was merely rubbish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how we got started.
I suppose that leads me on to asking about your stage character. Since you started talking about it, tell us a little bit about your stage characters, because you play kind of two slightly different personalities, should we say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I played Tilly Made Me, which is a pun, which not everybody always gets. First of all, Tilly made me. It's a bit of an un-PC pun these days, really, isn't it? But that's my name. So the idea of Tilly is that she's been on the music hall stage for many, many years, hanging around, eventually forced her way onto the stage when someone broke their leg, and hasn't really left it since. And Arthur met with Tilly one day.
Admired her talent.
That's what he
called it. I was going to
say,
how did you meet?
Yes, well, Arthur came to one of my shows, didn't you, dear?
Well, yes. I was desperate to get on the stage to involve myself in the roar of the grease paint and the smell of the crowd, and I just happened to meet up with Tilly. We came up with all this stuff long after we'd actually written the first act.
This is true.
The original thing was, well, you be a Cockney, I'll be posh, and we'll both be idiots. Let's go with that. So that's so Tilly is common as muck, and Arthur's background is a bit more. He is a real Cockney because he was born in a hansom carriage in the East End of London, which makes him a Cockney.
Yeah.
But he was born to an eye-wateringly rich family
outside the
Great Smoky Metropolis, Kent.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes,
I've
and
heard that
that's
said.
how, So I grew up rich and moneyed in an enormous in one of my father's enormous piles,
Right.
and then he died. So I moved ostensibly to go to the House of Lords, where I'm a Lord Loverduck. Just wait for that one. Yeah, and then yeah, and then met up with Tilly, and we've been together ever since. I've been desperately trying to I've been desperately trying to get her into bed, but she's not interested.
It's not happened.
No,
Not
no.
happened.
No.
No.
So
You've got
much
some-
much like our real life marriage in many ways.
So
Yeah,
we've got some comments and questions. So I have to share some of these because they're quite funny. We mentioned innuendos earlier, and Ian is suggesting you just need to keep your ends up.
For at least 5 minutes.
Steve Davis saying anyone who finds it hard may be watching the right thing. Interesting comment from Nimue. If I've learned anything this week, it's the importance of not putting the tape anywhere near the nipples, unless you're into that sort of thing. I've no idea what she's talking about. I don't know. Anyway.
Neither do I, and I would.
Stings.
I'd never have any idea.
Now we have our first serious question, which is from Lady M. She's saying, Andrea, is that gin?
Hendrix and lemonade.
Oh,
Don't
good
you
choice.
mention
Good
the
choice.
lemonade. We've run out of
Run out
tonic.
of tonic.
It's a sad state of affairs, but we have run out of tonic.
Absolutely. I can't let the side down.
She also asked, and because we started this with you kind of mucking around on, we saw that video of you. She also asked, do you actually sing around the house?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all the time.
Unfortunately, he does as well.
I do, but not the sort of thing that the Cogkneys would perform on stage. No.
No, we do. We do sing around the house, yeah.
Andrea sings mostly terrible 80s songs, like Bananarama and
we
Wilson
don't.
Phillips and Belinda Carlisle, and I sing mostly sort of heavy metal.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah,
Can I just say Malika sings around the house all the time, so,
As she should.
yeah, she's got a cracking voice.
Yeah, she has. And I laughed out loud when I saw this question come in earlier, so I'm going to put it up on screen now. Who is the brains behind the act? It's like that assumes something huge there, really.
Well, we do a bit of everything, don't we? I tend to write the script, so when we're performing on stage, I'll have written the script. Believe it or not, we are actually rehearsed when we're on the stage, and anything that seems like it goes wrong largely is rehearsed, unless it's the microphones. That's completely out of our control.
I write all the poetry, apart from very occasionally Andrea's written a couple of the poems.
Yeah.
And the parody songs, I tend to write more of them, but we do split them more between us, and we generally, if we're in a situation where one's 75% written, one of us will go to the other one and say, got any ideas?
Yeah, and we'll often change each other's lines.
Or what
So
will
let me
happen
get this
is one
straight.
of us will go, that line doesn't work, and the other one will go, what?
Then we'll argue.
So what you're saying is the other one finishes it off. Is that what you're saying?
Yay,
Yeah.
absolutely.
We're known for finishing each other off.
Well, I have to finish my end off. He has a go.
I do. Yeah. It's true.
So do you find yourself
Well,
finishing each other's sentences at all?
Yes.
we're known for finishing each other's.
Gin.
Here's a question. This is a kind of topical question. Any tips for how to survive lockdown as a couple? Asking for a friend, and then she's got hashtag gaffer tape and bing bags. I don't know what she's talking. I don't know what she's referring to there.
You are so lucky.
What you need is a common element between you that is both getting on your nerves. And for us, it's the children.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we do have. We do have two small children who basically give us focus.
And a real
a new
focus
word for it.
A real focus for annoyance.
Yes.
sometimes.
Most of the day it'll be Andrea wandering in the house. Ooh, baby, do you know what that's? No! No! Put that down! And then I put it down, and then the children misbehave.
In our house, it's mostly we shout at the telly. So, it's like when we hear an advert, we go, no, nobody said just eat.
No. We have also made that exact same phrase.
Yeah.
And last night it was
dogs
mostly
don't
going,
have
"That's
hands."
horrible. How is that going to win the challenge? Great sewing bee.
Oh, those awful shirt dresses. No.
No.
But that's not about us, so let's move back onto us.
Yes, okay. So how did you get into steampunk? I mean, it sounds like you were into steampunk before you became the Cogkneys. Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, I was probably first into steampunk, and I was into it from a literary point of view. I was and am a big science fiction reader. So I was familiar with the concept of steampunk as a literary thing. From, I don't know, late 90s probably, and too much of this gin. As an aesthetic, I was familiar with it. And then there was a blog that was started on the internet called Brass Goggles. This was before
LiveJournal.
It wasn't on LiveJournal. It was actually a separate blog. But I had an RSS feed to my LiveJournal. So I could read it as part of my LiveJournal feed. Yes, young people.
So we were both on that.
So we were both looking at that and going, "This is cool. This is interesting. Look at this." And then, as you'll know, Brass Goggles moved over into becoming a forum as well, a big steampunk forum. And I was on there one day. I'd been, I wasn't I'm not very good on forums and stuff. I'm a bit of a lurker, but I was lurking about on there.
I comment too much.
Yes. It's true in life also. So I was on there, and I noticed some bloke had put on there that he was going to put his money where his mouth was and start some kind of steampunk festival. And that was John, who had put on the first Asylum. And I said to Andrea, shall we go to the Asylum? It sounds quite good. And she said, no, not. And we were quite regular goers to Whitby Gothic Weekend at the time.
We've been going for quite some years.
I think we'd even gone to Whitby in steampunk gear, and we'd met up with steampunk people in Nottingham as well a couple of times at the pub, but not very often because we're lazy and we don't like leaving the house. And
look what happened.
Yeah, now we're stuck here and we desperately want to leave. So we went to that, and we saw it, and that's when it leads back into the how did we get started.
Yeah.
We saw it and went, it'd be quite nice to be involved in this. I think that's what happens with a lot of steampunk people is they in the community is they see something, they go, I'd like to be involved in this, even if it's just creating a fantastic outfit or creating a piece of art or whatever. Yeah, it's just our bit that we wanted to do with it was to get up on stage and make fools of ourselves in front of people.
And why not?
Well, it's nice to do it on the stage instead of just in general.
What is it then that this is a question that I ask most of the guests that I've interviewed and most people who get involved in the scene. I always find it an interesting question to ask because you always get some interesting answers. What kind of appeals to you about steampunk? What was it that grabbed you?
For me, it was very much the people. It was a very different atmosphere to some of the events, the goth events that we'd gone to, where we knew a handful of people and we never really knew any more than that. It wasn't quite such a...
It was a bit of a struggle to make friends.
Yeah, it was a struggle to make friends. And we found from going to the Asylum, we went with Gabby and her then partner, and we didn't know anybody else there. And people are just more friendly. They'll stop and talk to you and talk about your outfit, and it's just that kind of sense of camaraderie that you have with other steampunks that is very different in the scene. I mean, every scene has people that we'd rather not be in it because they're not so nice. But steampunk, I think, has less of that than any other alternative scene that we've been involved in.
Well, I mean, I'd at the very first Asylum, I was at the bar, and a bloke walked up to me with a drink in his hand and went, "I like your trousers." And in years of going to Whitby, no one had ever complimented my outfit, and I looked fantastic. I'll be honest, I looked fantastic. So I was quite surprised by this. So it was just that immediate sense of, people here are really nice. There's a real sense of community, and I think because it's not tied together through any particular one thing, because even though steampunk was initially a literary genre, you don't have to get into steampunk through that. You can get into steampunk through the aesthetic, through a TV program or a film, like say the old Wild Wild West film, or even the old Wild Wild West TV series. If you're going back a long, long way, it's like a lot of people have said, is that you realise you liked steampunk even before you knew what there was a name for it.
Yeah, a lot of people say that, don't they?
Yeah.
and you look back at things that you used to enjoy, and realise there was a real steampunk feel to it. One of the things that we both really liked when we were young, and our parents both had, was a copy of the War of the Worlds album. The big prog concept album, and it comes with a big art book, and you open up the middle page, which is the fantasy section of the England Underground that's been created. Whole new world, brave new world, and it's such a steampunk picture. Yeah. It's so steampunk, and I kind of loved that picture. So when I heard of steampunk, I went, "Oh, this has a name. This thing I've already seen has a name." It's a very familiar story, and there's so many people I've spoken to who say, well, I was into steampunk, but I never really knew what it called, or I never knew really knew where to go or what to do. We just had a great question from Julia, who, of course, many of us will know as Alice Strange. What is your most memorable gig? Or what was your most memorable gig?
Oh, that's a hard one. We've got some gigs that we preferred because we liked kind of the makeup of it and the songs we did in it.
I thought you were going to say you had some gigs you prefer to forget, but
yeah, there's been a few.
Yeah,
there was one at the Rifle Club many years ago where we'd unfortunately planned lots of jokes to sound cues, and the iPad would not work at all. And in the end, John ended up coming on and doing the sound cues himself with the microphone. That was memorable. That was memorable in a bad way. I think for me, on a slant. Hello.
It's that gin. You've been drinking too much gin.
Woo! Woo! That was the dog.
I'll just switch back to me while you sort yourselves out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, fine.
We were just talking about having technical difficulties.
And there you go.
It's the gremlins.
There you go. No, well, I'm on it. If you sit down, it should be fine.
The gremlins got it. Oh, there you go. Back again.
There we go.
We're still on a bit of a wonk.
I have to say, one of the things that I really like about your performances is the very natural way you perform. And some of the places we've all played, because I've been on the bill, I've introduced you, I've done some comedy. It's been always, the conditions are sometimes not like a major theatre where everything's laid on. So sometimes when issues hit or difficulties hit, it's the way you deal with them is just brilliant. I mean, I'm always in awe of the way. In fact, sometimes it's funny when things do go wrong because it's just the way you deal with it is just brilliant. I've got a message here. Can you bring a loo roll down when you're finished? Oh, I don't think that's for you.
We've got a spare one if you need it.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks. That's worth bearing in mind. I'll bear that in mind.
Yeah.
So,
I think.
Go on.
Sorry. I think my favourite one is the second one we did, the second asylum, which we called Cogkneys Go Mental in the Asylum, which is on YouTube. It's really old now, but it was one of our favourite ones because we had a fantastic reaction to one of our songs. It was Edison's A Bad Steampunk,
yes,
sung to Lady Gaga's Bad Romance. Not Bad Romance.
Bad Romance.
I'm right. Yeah. And I had, we were obviously talking about how Edison was awful and he didn't really invent the light bulb. And I took a jacket off, and I think people thought I was just having a bit of a strip. So like, woo, that's awesome, that's awesome. And when I turned around, I had two great big lights shining on my area, on my knockers. Yeah, yes. And that was quite a wonderful reaction from the audience. And they'll go, "Way!" about that.
I don't know why, but I remember that one. I don't know why. It's one of the ones
funny.
We also debuted
2 illuminated points for that one, wasn't there?
We also debuted Cthulhu's the Word at that one.
And
so that was fun.
Cthulhu's the Word.
And I think that was the first time we'd done Get Out and Get Under favorites as well, which is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you talk about innuendo, but Get Out and Get Under is a song from 1912, and it's absolutely filthy.
It's certainly filthy, yeah. And I think because we had some of our best works, I think there, we've sung these songs again and again and again, and they always go down really, really well.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that's my favourite show. I think we found our feet in that show. The first show, we weren't quite sure what we were doing, were we? We were a little bit unsure, but by that second show, we'd found what we were.
Yeah. I also remember that first show and going out on stage and Andrea giving me my feed line and me saying, and then everything stopped for about an hour and a half while I tried to think of what I was supposed to say next.
If you ever watch that first show, we edited out the that happened. So you won't ever know how painful that was.
It wasn't as long. It wasn't as long as I remember it, but it was still
It
painfully.
wasn't.
No, I know
too
when
long.
things like that happen, and I think they happen to most performers. There does seem time just seems to elongate and go.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
actually
It feels
only
like
a couple
it
of seconds,
lasts
just
forever.
yeah.
I didn't calm down until I had my first laugh, and once I'd had the first laugh, I kind of calmed down. I was like, yeah, this is all right actually. Hooray!
So, somebody was commenting. Was that your camera or my gin?
Both.
Yeah,
Must have been the gin.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's definitely not our shoddy setup that we've got going on here.
Yeah.
We realised far too late that our webcam was really, really bad.
Yeah. So
I wanted to ask Tilly actually. Are you a fan of all the old musical acts?
Yes, yeah. I've watched a lot of the good old days, and I've watched them before I knew you.
Yeah.
Seeing them on the telly, and I love the kind of raucousness and the rawness of it all, and the fact that they were such hard-working, true performers. You would go out there, and if you were no good, you were booed off the stage. It was you had to really work.
yeah,
for
don't
your
do
money.
that to us.
No, don't do that.
Don't do that.
No.
No.
Yeah, because
I really do admire them.
Ian Crichton's saying, what real music hall performers do you admire, and which ones have influenced you?
I think probably Vesta Tilly has influenced me. I did once do an act called Master Made Me when I went into Drag King. I've never done it since, and maybe I should do it again, but it certainly wasn't a polished act. And obviously Mary Lloyd, and I do quite a lot of Mary Lloyd songs.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
Yeah. His name's just gone out of my head.
But he was great.
He was great. Anyway, that guy. I liked a bit of the kind of revival stuff. I was more into the people who were doing the revival. My big hero, who we sadly lost quite recently, was Roy Hood.
Yes.
Who was a
absolutely
huge, kind of proponent of keeping the memory of music hall alive. But also people like Les Dawson, who did some amazing music hall stuff. There were performers who kind of transcended the boundaries of time, and are still funny nowadays. And I think it's partly because what you got in the 1970s, you got a lot of comedy that was quite uncomfortable comedy, quite unfortunate. But then you also had people who could come along and do really, really old fashioned material and still make it feel fresh and new. And that's, I think, they're the people who've kind of stuck around in people's memory.
I loved Les Dawson's piano playing.
Yeah,
it was just it was just genius what he used to do with that act.
Yeah. He did that on the good old days once, actually. That particular.
And the fact that he had to be so excellent.
Yeah,
you have to be excellent to be able to be that bad.
Yes, exactly.
I'd like to say that's how we're that bad. Because
it
we are
is,
so
obviously,
excellent.
Obviously.
It's like jazz.
Yeah. Now, Carl, you're also known for your poetry.
I am. I'm an award-winning poet.
He sometimes tells you that.
Yeah, it's funny, but I don't think you've ever told me that. Not once.
No.
Well,
I'll tell you now. I'm an award-winning poet. Yes, I've written books and everything. I've got just a selection of them here, as it happens. But here they are. Ribbled for Your Pleasure.
Yes.
It's his first book.
My first book, the comic verse of Arthur Foots III, with additional material by Tilly made me.
You mean this one?
Put it in. That's the fella. It's good, isn't it? You got that out of the Lavy, especially, did you? That's where everybody seems to keep their copies. And there's a Ribbled for Your Pleasure too.
Yeah, I don't know where my copy of that is. I can't find that one.
Poetic Boogaloo.
I've got it somewhere.
We don't have any of those left.
And somewhere
ourselves.
I've forgotten to pick it up, but I also have a Ribbled for Your Pleasure 3 hardcore pornography. That's the fella. Hey. Yeah. So
we have lots of those left to sell.
There's that. I also have written prose. This is my book, Trilogy of Terror. It's a good book, isn't it? You must be like one of the only people that's actually got a copy of that.
It's like some kind of snap game we're playing now.
Yeah. And look what else I've got. No.
Yes. Have you got this one though?
What's this one?
Yeah, I told you
one.
we had a smart book.
Yeah, don't open that one.
No, I won't.
Don't open that one for everybody.
Wait.
That's a cracker, that one.
It is. It's a proper cracker.
So Arthur Foots' World of Smut. Yeah, so I've written a few books, like you do.
They've gone.
Won an award or two. I've won one award.
So No, you're. So give us the topics of some of your poems, because I know, without going into too much detail, one of the things I will say is that you've created a great performance for us, a set of videos for us for Steampunk Over Ether. So we will be showing those as part of the festival. So if you want to see, get the closest you'll get to seeing the Cogkneys live at the moment, it's probably watching those on Steampunk Over Ether. And there's also some poems from Arthur in there, and I'm a particular fan. I always like wordplay anyway. But tell us a little bit. And obviously, one of them has become kind of almost an anthem, I would say, which is about keeping an article of clothing in its correct position.
Absolutely, on the waist. So yes, trousers. What's the title of that one again, Tilly?
Or something attack on your satirical inelegance.
I'll look it up. I can never remember them. I've got a terrible memory.
Something that we do really like is because trousers is so well known with people that come to see us in various shows, is that they shout the "Why don't you pull your bloody trousers up" back at us?
Yeah.
And that's quite good. We do enjoy that.
I always join in the kind of there was not really a chorus, but I always join in that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a very joinable one.
Sort of like a chorus.
Maybe we should put it to music one day.
Like the themes of my poems generally tend to run to gin.
Yes.
Other boozers.
Yes.
Smut.
Yes.
Gin.
Yes.
Steampunk things.
Yeah.
Just innuendo in general, and smut.
Yeah. Yeah.
Generally. That's generally where I tend to go. But a variety of approaches to the smut, like in some cases discussing the smut in terms of it also involving tentacled beasts, and in other cases, smut just as a general kind of hymn to the glory of smut.
See, that's probably why I like
you have written a hymn to the glory of smut.
Them so much. It's probably why I like them so much.
Yeah.
But yes, I do find that shouting along to your poem "Keep Your Bloody Trousers Up" is actually very therapeutic. It's very therapeutic. I find it very therapeutic.
Well, it's one of the rare ones I've written actually about something that isn't to do with smut or booze.
Yeah.
Something we actually find with a steampunk audience as well is that they're quite tuned in to popular culture, which some genres really aren't tuned in at all to popular culture, but steampunk really is. So we do find when we're able to bring in a popular culture reference, steampunk audiences get it and they laugh. Which is a great thing, because that isn't always the case with genres.
I think it's quite interesting because I mean, with the radio plays, I do quite a lot of stuff that references things, and it references lots of different things, quite a lot of geeky things as well. I reference in my radio plays, and the audience do tend to get it. Not to say first time around, but they do tend to get it, and I quite like that. I quite like the fact that you can put these things in, and people will actually get them rather than just get you blank jaw.
Well, I always say, you just put in what you can and see if people enjoy it.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
If they don't, they'll tell you. Yeah.
Exactly, and they have to whip it straight out.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I also love throwing weird little references in. I mean, I reference Lovecraft a lot.
Yeah. But that seems to go hand in hand with steampunk.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it always has, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Weird fiction, I think, is the weird fiction of the time.
Yeah.
Of the sort of Edwardian period, which fits in really well. But also. Even though it's ostensibly about smut, my childhood sweetheart is featured in a daguerreotype I bought from the local tobacconists, is essentially a poetic retelling of My Girlfriend is the Centerfold by the J. Geils Band. So it's quite. I remember reading that out once, and someone I know quite well was halfway through went, "Hang on, it was you. It was Yuki." Halfway through, you went, "Hang on a minute, I know what this is."
I'm a bit slow on the uptake sometimes, but they used to be one of my favourite songs. So it's it's quite good because that one works even if you don't know the original song. So
exactly, I tried to make it work so it still had jokes in it, but when you kind of hear the way the story is being told, it becomes clear it's essentially a steampunk version of a popular song from the 1970s.
Yeah. We got another question. I should say, by the way, that for anybody watching this, that for occasionally, I know I'm not always looking at the camera and talking to you. Sorry about that, but that's because over here, if I'm looking this direction, that's where the Cogkneys are on my screen, and if I'm looking over there, it's because I'm dealing with technical stuff. But
yes, you're down here for us, you see.
Yeah, so we're struggling.
That's why we're going like this, and then occasionally going.
It just looks like you're falling asleep, basically. On the right here is where your comments are coming in. So if you've got any questions, comments, any of those things, please put them up because I can see them and I will bring them across. And one we've had, this is a difficult question, this one, I can tell you. So
Oh, great.
be prepared for this one. Colin's asking, what one word would you use to describe your act?
Fun.
One word, yeah.
Fun.
Fun.
Okay, that's good. I like that. Yeah, fun's
Fun.
good.
It's a comedy
fun.
act.
It's a comedy
Yeah.
act.
Yeah,
It's-
fun's
it's-
good. Fun's good.
It's just, yeah.
So where do the ideas for these songs come from? Because obviously you do some you do quite a lot of pastiche songs, but so where does the idea start?
Anywhere and
Yeah.
everywhere. There's been many times we've been driving somewhere and something comes on the radio and we're like, oh, I've got a line to that. And you sing it over and then it goes nowhere else. And it gets parked on a
forget
shelf. In fact, we've had since Steampunk New Year at Corby, which is a very long time ago, we've had Smooth Dirigible.
Huge dirigible.
I thought, huge dirigible.
Yeah.
It's gone nowhere because there
Because
aren't enough lyrics in the song.
There's not enough lyrics in the song to make enough jokes.
Yeah.
You get that little snippet, you're like, oh yeah, that's really good, and it just doesn't go anywhere.
I was just sitting one day, reading or something, and I was thinking about the classic quote from Lovecraft. That is not dead which can eternal die, and with strange. No, that is not dead which can eternal lie, and with strange eons even death may die. And I just happened in my head. I don't know how. I realised that it fitted exactly to the opening words of the lyrics of "Grease is the word."
Mm-hmm.
And no one wants to see your face, small child. And I thought to myself, ooh.
Now that could work.
Cthulhu's the word.
Yeah.
So and I wrote Cthulhu's the word,
Yeah.
and that's been very popular.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
I
often
like that
starts
one.
with the tagline of the song for us. So Edison's a bad steampunk came in for me. And then I had to build it around it. And it was really difficult to start with because I was trying to get as many historical facts in about Edison as I could and still actually fit the music. So that was quite hard, but that one worked. But they just come to us, when we're shopping and they just come. And then quite often, quite sadly, by the time we've got home, we've forgotten what it was.
Yeah.
And
I do that all the time.
Some song just lost to the ether that will never be.
And once we just went, wouldn't it be great if we did a song so Andrea could go on roller skates? We went. What about if we did a version of Wired for Sound by Cliff Richard, so Andrea could roller skate around? She used to be quite good at roller skating.
Not anymore.
And then I had to sit and rack my brains to try and figure out how on earth I was going to make that into a comedy song.
Yeah. But it worked. Unfortunately, I don't think anybody heard it because that was one of the unfortunate instances of microphone failure.
Yeah.
So we shouted it.
But I remember the roller skating very well. So that was quite interesting. I remember Carl's robot as well. I think that was the same.
Oh yes, the Arthurtron 3000.
Yeah,
was
that
it?
might have been the same year.
Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah. Or
No, it
Automatonomatic.
It wasn't the same year.
Wasn't it? No. Oh, no, it wasn't. No, it was a different year.
No,
So-
that was
Was it not?
no.
Okay.
Colin's question about what one word would you use. Ian Crichton's come up with an answer, which is
Oh, God.
salacious.
He's not wrong.
Suits you, sir.
Who is this salacious, and where can I meet her?
So in terms of
Well,
modern
actually,
music,
she works down the docks, doesn't she?
Yeah.
so in terms of modern music, what modern music do you like?
I think also you'd probably want to talk about people like Tom Lehrer.
Well, I suppose, yeah. In terms of modern people who I find an inspiration, Tom Lehrer.
Yeah.
Who's not really modern anymore. I mean,
No.
I think his first album came out in the 1950s, so I think he retired in the 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not that modern. But also Weird Al Yankovic is a big influence.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest influence actually, Weird Al Yankovic, because no one's really ever managed to achieve, I think, the level of success he has. And,
He's awesome.
Yeah. Tom Lehrer is interesting because he tends, and if you're not familiar with Tom Lehrer, I suggest this is like a statement to the nation. If you're not familiar with the works of Tom Lehrer, Lehrer, that's right. You should go out and seek out the works of Tom Lehrer, particularly Poisoning Pigeons in the Park.
Can
I just say, yes, you should.
You absolutely should, because he was, and still is. He's very old now, but he's still going.
Yeah.
He is just amazing. Some fantastic stuff. Some amazing parodies of musical genres. Just incredibly clever lyrics. Yeah, great, well worth it. And then he gave it all up to go and become a professor of mathematics at Harvard.
What a waste, eh? What a waste.
What a waste. What a waste of a brain.
He got sick of it.
Waste of a brain.
But neither of us are professors of mathematics at Harvard, which is why we're carrying on with this.
Hey, I've taught up to year 6 level.
Ian Crichton's mentioned one of my favourites, which is Neil Innes, because obviously Neil Innes of the Bonzos.
Yeah.
All those people are fabulous. I mean, there's lots of people. We're having this conversation with, I think with Mr. B the other night about comedy songs and music in comedy, and quite underrated. Oh God, here we go. You know what Crichton's like? He's saying, "I met Lyra once, you know."
Of course he did.
Yeah, of course he's met everyone.
Well, I bet he stole his suit.
I know. Yeah, exactly. I know.
Actually, they are about. I suspect they are about the same size.
Maybe.
So, what was I going to ask? Oh, yes. Do you have, given the current situation and everything, now I showed a quick clip of that medley, Marooned in the Musical, which I recommend anybody check out because it's very funny. It's actually really good. And you've got other videos up on YouTube. Are you planning to do any more videos, any more things in the pipeline of that?
I think we probably are. We've been quite lax at getting a presence online, and we're really keen at the minute to grow our subscribers on YouTube and followers on Facebook, because we haven't really pushed it in the 10 years.
Yeah.
We've just kind of not, have we? We've just kind of know got booked into places and turned up and done what we do, and never really pushed the online side. I think we'd both really like to do a live stream concert, as some of our friends in the industry have done, and I just really worry no one would watch.
Yeah. Or enjoy.
I'd be there.
Hey, look, we've got one audience.
We've got one member of the audience. Yeah. Great. Well, we'll do it.
Yeah, I think we would really like to.
Yeah. So if you'd like to see us do a concert, let us know.
Yeah.
Certainly, I think a few more videos.
I'd definitely be there. Just slip me a $5 and that'd be fine.
Or you can slip us a $5 and no, never mind.
Yeah, and we won't do it.
Yeah. So I wanted to. I think we've been chatting now for about 40 minutes or so. So just looking to see if there's any last questions. Oh, hang on, here we go. A question from Kat Scott. Will there be any more story serials? Enjoyed Zombies and Shadow over Canberra Sands.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. The last book in the series, the last story in the series is Curse of the Wampfear. But in an attempt to be clever, I
can't do it. It's backwards.
Remember, the camera's there.
I can't do it backwards.
There we go.
No matter how often I ask.
There we are.
It's called Curse of the Wampfear. It's like vampire, but with a W. But in an attempt to be clever, I wrote it in the style of Bram Stoker, sort of.
Right.
Not really the style, but I wrote it as a series of diary entries from both Tilly and myself, and some of them recorded on a phonograph in an attempt to, all right, yes, we will do a live stream, Mark Simpson. And yeah, so
we need to work that one out.
Trying to figure out, because we might try and make that one a little bit more dramatic.
Yeah.
I've also halfway-ish through. It's 2 years now, so I wouldn't hold your breath. But I'm halfway through Cogkneys in the Moon, which is a parodic retelling of First Men in the Moon by H.G. Wells, which has some absolutely filthy jokes in it. So if I get
H.G. Wells, I don't remember H.G. Wells writing filthy jokes.
Not yet, he doesn't.
But apparently he used to. He used to rub those ones out.
H.G. Swells, that's what it's going to be after this.
I see.
So the version I'm writing has some absolutely filthy jokes in it.
That makes a lot more sense, frankly.
I don't know. H.G. Wells was obsessed with tripods, which is a bit rude, isn't it? So I'm working on that. So if I get that finished, I will do that. And what I would also like to do is maybe do some stories in my storyteller style of other people's work.
So
I thought I might do a bit of Lovecraft.
Yeah.
Maybe do a bit of Poe.
Oh yes.
So I might pop some of those onto the
that would be fab. That would be fab.
Onto the YouTube at some point. Some readings of Lovecraft.
You do have a great storytelling voice, can I say? It's you have a great sense of telling a story.
Thank you very much.
But
it's because I lie so much.
Yeah, you say you've been working on things for 2 years. I still haven't got Count Rostov's CDs out to the public, so and it's been the last one of those was done about 10 years ago. So And of course, I had to mention that both Carl and Andrea, the Cogkneys, have appeared in many of the radio plays, and quite brilliantly too.
Still emotionally scarred.
Sorry?
We're still emotionally scarred.
Yeah, still emotionally scarred. Yeah, the check's not in the post. And in fact, when eventually they do come out on CD, I will obviously mention that fact, and yes, we can all talk about it. I'm hoping, and this is an exclusive. I'm kind of letting the bag out that we might try and do a live radio play over the weekend. With you guys helping out. Well, basically you guys carrying it and making it funny as you always do, because it's not, not funny.
You mean ad-libbing when we shouldn't?
Yeah, not funny till you do it. But anyway, enough about that. I know we said that you're on Bandcamp, so people can listen to your music and do stuff on Bandcamp.
Yeah, I've got a few things there.
There's a few little there's an album of spoken word poetry on there, if that's your bag. Yeah. And who doesn't love albums of spoken word poetry?
Yeah. We've got a Cogkneys EP,
and a Cogkneys EP.
Yeah.
And I think that might be it at the moment.
Yeah, most of our stuff is more on YouTube at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
The newer stuff, but we have got some old stuff.
So that if you want to go to YouTube, basically people search for the Cogkneys.
Cogkneys.
Yeah, replace the C with a G and you're done.
Yeah, replace the second C with a G.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not the first one.
There are two Cogkneys channels. So look for the one that has Maroon in the Music Hall on it. That's the right channel. That's the one I'm updating.
Once this video goes up onto Facebook, then what happens is the way it works with Facebook is that you have to wait until it goes up, and then you can edit the description and add all the bits in. So once that's gone up, I will put all the links as live links into the description so that people can just click and go through. The other thing we should mention, of course, is Facebook. As we're on Facebook, that you have a Facebook page, the Cogkneys.
There's a group as well if you search for that too.
Yeah.
So
there's a group and a page. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the page, so that's the one we tend to keep more active.
And people can follow you on there.
Yeah, I mean we do have CDs and books,
and
things for sale, and money from those. Some of the money from those always goes to the Royal British Legion.
Yeah.
So
okay,
because we always used to start to try and raise money, didn't we?
Yeah.
Again, in the description afterwards, I'll be putting links to, because you've got books on Lulu, I believe, which is the publishing
Lulu,
and Amazon,
and also on Amazon. So I will be putting those links in. So if you want to support the Cogkneys, or check out their music and support them, then obviously buy their CDs and buy Carl's poetry books. Don't miss Carl's poetry books. His poetry is wonderful, isn't it, Carl?
It is excellent. I've won awards for it, an award.
Would you recommend it? Would you recommend it, Carl?
The Smart Book is no longer available, but I'll have to work on getting another.
Beautiful thing.
I'll have to work and get another one. We've got, you should support us. We've got tiny mouths to feed. We keep them in a jar.
Right. Well, I think we should say thank you very much for spending time with us tonight. It's been lovely to talk to you as always. Wonderful as always. So so thank you very much to the Cogkneys. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, and
we'll see you over the weekend.
Yeah, you might be popping up over the weekend, I think. So we'll see you then.
Fingers crossed.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
So that was the Cogkneys, the fabulous Cogkneys, and as I say, don't miss out. We've got some videos from them coming up over the festival weekend, so you can see their performance as it would be on stage, as it were. That's fantastic. We've got some poems from Carl, and we might be doing one or two other little live things as well, using their talents. So that's all coming up this weekend, Steampunk Over Ether. Don't miss the festival. We've got some fantastic stuff. I will be trying to post up a draft schedule tonight with the final schedule Friday night, Saturday morning. We're running the festival from midday through to the evening, both days, Saturday and Sunday. There's all sorts of things. We've got workshops, we've got music, we've got makers, we've got gadgets, we've got a shopping channel, mad shopping channel, all sorts of wonderful things, different things, and some exclusive things as well, some things you probably won't see anywhere else. So don't miss that, Steampunk Over Ether. And then the other thing I would mention is tomorrow night I'm interviewing Professor Elemental, so that's going to be very exciting. I'm very excited about that. That should be good. And look out on Facebook. There's loads of live streaming stuff going on. All sorts of people are live streaming. It's brilliant. There's lots of people. Look out for Steampunk's live streaming. There's a number of people doing things that are just wonderful. So from me, I'll say good night for now, and remember, stay safe and stay splendid.